Today we will talk about the female reproductive system. The primary organs of female reproductive system are ovaries. Okay, so female gonads are ovaries. Primary or essential organs are ovaries. Okay. And accessory structures include accessory organs include uterus, uterine tubes, also called fallopian tube, vagina, mammary gland, female breast, and external genitalia includes labius majus, right, labius minus, clitoris, hymen, those structures. Okay, so the main organs or essential organs are the ovaries. Ovaries produce what? Ovum or egg. You are not wrong. As well as female sex hormones. Okay? Estrogen, progesterone. So, we'll talk about the ovaries, we'll talk about the uterus, we'll talk about the fallopian or uterine tube, and what happens. Now, inside the ovaries, a cycle, very important cycle takes place, that is called the ovarian cycle. Probably you have heard this name, right? So ovarian cycle occurs or takes place where? Inside the ovary. Okay, that's why it is called the ovarian cycle. And inside the uterus, another very important cycle occurs. That's the menstrual cycle. Also called uterine cycle because it happens in the uterus. Same thing, uterine or menstrual cycle. So those two are important cycles, right, in female body, female reproductive system. We'll talk about that too. Okay. Okay, in this picture you can see the organs of female reproductive system. This is one half, so you can see one side. This is the ovary, other one in the opposite side, everything. Then this is the uterine tube or fallopian tube, and this is the uterus, and this is the vagina, labius majus, labius minus, those structures. Okay. And another thing is a number of ligaments hold the reproductive organs, female reproductive organs, in right locations in the pelvic cavity. Make sense? So the ligaments tie the organs to keep them in the pelvic cavity in right locations. That's why you have a number of ligaments. So the ligaments include ovarian ligament, suspensory ligament, round ligament, and broad ligament. So we'll see those ligaments. So you see here, this ligament connects the ovary to the uterus. This is called the ovarian ligament. Ovary and uterus. So you have two ovarian ligaments. Then this ligament that contains the blood vessels and nerves too inside the ligament, this ligament is called the suspensory ligament. It attaches the ovary to the lateral pelvic wall. Now you see, these are pelvic bones, right? You know that. These are the pelvic bones. So this is the pelvic bone from the ovary to the pelvic bone, pelvic wall. So suspensory ligaments.
You have two, right?
Two. Then you have round ligaments. This one. Round ligament connects the uterus to the labius majus. So it goes all the way down to the back or posterior of the labius majus. Okay? So uterus to the back of the labius majus. Two round ligaments. Then you have a broad ligament. The name is telling you it is broad, like a membrane, flat, broad, membrane-like ligament. This one, you see the membrane, same thing in this side. So this is the broad ligament. Broad ligament supports all reproductive organs because you see the broad ligament is attached to the uterus, to the ovaries, and fallopian tube. So all those organs are supported or held by the broad ligament. So those are the ligaments, okay? Important ligament. There is another ligament, you can write it down, that is called Utero sacral ligament, from uterus to the sacrum. This is the sacrum, you know, the bone. So goes from the uterus to the sacrum. Okay. Now we'll see this is the uterus. This is the uterine tube. Okay. This side you have the same thing. This is the ovary. Okay.
Looks like little hands.
Yeah. Isn't it? Okay. So now this is what? The uterus. Okay. So this is the uterus, and this part is called the body, the middle portion. This dome-shaped part, top part, is called the fundus. You know, stomach has a fundus too, right? So top dome-shaped part is fundus. This middle white part is the body, and lower end is called the cervix. Cervix of the uterus. Okay, and the cavity inside is called the uterine cavity. Makes sense, right? Uterine cavity inside the uterus. And this is the house for the embryo and fetus. Embryo grows inside the uterus, right? And becomes fetus. So this is the house. Or uterus houses the embryo and that becomes a fetus, right? Grows inside. This opening is called the cervical canal. Okay, here. So this part is the cervical canal. And this is the vagina. Okay. And you see here, there is a space around the cervix. So actually it is like this, you see. This is the uterus, cervix of the uterus, and this is vagina. There is a space, right, between, around the cervix. That is called the fornix. So around the cervix, you have the fornix. Okay, now what happens? Let's start with the ovary. Okay. Before I talk about the ovary, another thing, this is the uterine tube. And the part of the uterine tube that is attached to the uterus, this part is called isthmus. Isthmus. And this part, you see, turns towards the ovary and little bit wider. This part is very important. This is called the ampulla. Remember, very important part of the uterine tube. Okay, and these finger-like structures are called Fimbriae. It's like this, Fimbriae. Okay, finger-like at the end of the free end of the uterine tube. And where the fingers are attached, this part is called the infundibulum. Infundibulum. So those are the parts of the uterine tube. Make sense? Okay. Now we'll see the ovary. Ovary has the outer part, which is called the cortex, and the inner part is called the medulla. Okay. Now if I see the ovary here, in the outer cortex you have the follicles. Okay, now in the outer part, these are the follicles. All these are the follicles. And the follicles grow, get matured gradually. Okay, so you see here, these are tiny follicles, and gradually they get bigger and mature. These earliest follicles are called primordial follicles. primordial follicles. These are the earliest, smallest, and these are basically stem cells. Inside the follicle, you have a very important structure. That's the ovum or egg. So ovum or egg. So each follicle has an ovum or egg inside. Okay? And other cells. So you have the other cells around the egg. These cells are called granulosa cells. Okay, so follicle has an egg or ovum and other cells. Those are granulosa cells. So many granulosa cells, but only one what? Ovum or egg. Make sense? Okay. Now, the earliest follicles are called the primordial follicles. And then primordial follicles get matured a little bit and becomes primary follicles. Primary, and then becomes secondary follicles, then late secondary, follicles, and the most mature, the final mature stage is called the Graafian. Or vesicular. Follicles. Okay, so most mature are the Graafian follicles. So this is how the follicles go through different steps or stages of maturation and becomes the Graafian follicle. And this part takes about 14 days from primordial to Graafian. How long? 14 days. And this phase or part is called the follicular phase. About 14 days. Makes sense, because in this part what happens? The follicles grow, right, and get matured. That's why this phase is called what? Follicular phase. Then what happens next? The most mature Graafian follicle ruptures and releases the egg. This egg gets out, and that is called ovulation. Rupture of the Graafian follicle and the release of what? The ovum, right? To the outside of the ovary. Outside of the ovary. And that is called what? Ovulation. So the egg or ovum comes out like this with some granulosa cells around like this. Okay? So gets out from the ovary. rupture of the Graafian follicle and release of the egg to the outside of the ovary. That is the ovulation, ejection of the egg or ovum. So this is phase number 2, that is the ovulation. Ovulation takes days or no? Just rupture and release, right? So it doesn't take even days. So short time, rupture and release. So then after the ovulation, the rest part of Graafian follicle that remains inside the uterus, that becomes a yellow structure, and this yellow structure is called Corpus Luteum. Luteum means yellow. Corpus Luteum. And so the rest part of the Graafian follicle that remains inside the ovary, that becomes Corpus Luteum. And the color is yellow, yellowish, because a lot of fat accumulates inside, and that's why it looks yellowish. Now Corpus Luteum acts as a temporary gland, very important, remains there and acts as what? A temporary gland, and secretes 3 important hormones. Since it acts as a gland, it releases hormones: estrogen, progesterone, and another hormone that is called inhibin. So these 3 hormones are secreted by the corpus luteum. Is it clear? Okay. Corpus luteum stays inside the ovary for about 14 days. How long? 14 days. 2 weeks. And then it becomes a white scar tissue structure that is called corpus albicans. Corpus albicans. Have you heard the word albino? Means what? White. White, right? You see the skin that happens, right? White. So corpus albicans. Color is what? White. Corpus luteum. Color is what? Yellow. Luteum means yellow. Okay? And will be disintegrated, destroyed. It will become, broken into many pieces and will be dissolved in the body, disappear. Okay. So, again, remind me, corpus luteum acts as what? Temporary gland, and remains there for about 14 days. That part is called the luteal phase. – 14 days. Now, these 3 together is the ovarian cycle. Ovarian cycle. So ovarian cycle is what is happening in the cortex of the ovary from the beginning to the end. Make sense? The complete, whole thing is the ovarian cycle. So how many phases? 3. First 14 days, which phase? Follicular, because during that time the primordial follicle grows, get matured and becomes Graafian follicle. Make sense? Okay, so that's why it is follicular phase. Then number 2 is what? Ovulation. Rupture of Graafian follicle. It's like, Graafian follicle is like, ripened fruit. Ripe fruit. Very soft, right? It's rupture, seed comes out, right? When it ruptures, seed comes out. So very similar. Graafian follicle is very soft and ready to get ruptured, burst, right? And when it bursts, the seed or egg or ovum gets out, and that's called ovulation. Is it clear? And then the Graafian follicle remains, the part remains inside the ovary that turns to yellow, right? Structure, that is the corpus luteum. Acts as a temporary gland, remains there for about 14 days. Is it clear? Now, which hormones are released by the corpus luteum? How many? Three. Estrogen, progesterone, and inhibin. Make sense? This is very interesting. As long as these 3 hormones are released from the corpus luteum in your blood, those hormones level is high, right? Make sense? And that will stop further ovulation. That's why ovulation doesn't happen one after another, right? It doesn't happen like one now and tomorrow another day, next day another. No, that doesn't. There is a pause, right? So, as long as the corpus luteum is there, as long as the corpus luteum continues secreting these hormones, no further ovulation will occur. Make sense? How that happens? Pituitary gland. You must remember pituitary gland secretes, anterior pituitary secretes 6 hormones, and 2 of those hormones work on the ovary. Follicular stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone, FSH, LH. FSH, its name is what? Follicle stimulating hormone. Make sense? So it will stimulate the follicles and help them to grow and get mature. Make sense? So follicle stimulating hormone. Luteinizing hormone, this one mainly works here to cause the what? Rupture.
You said this is from the posterior?
Anterior pituitary. So those 2 anterior pituitary hormones, right, help in the growth and maturation of follicle, as well as luteinizing helps in what? Rupture of the Graafian follicle. That means ovulation. So these 2 hormones work on the ovary, and just before the rupture of the Graafian follicle, plenty of luteinizing hormone is released from the anterior pituitary. Just before the rupture of the Graafian follicle, plenty of luteinizing hormone is released. Make sense? And that is called luteinizing hormone surge. LH surge. Luteinizing hormone surge. Sudden release of luteinizing hormone. Plenty of luteinizing hormone. Is it clear? Okay. So, you see here, a number of hormones are working here. A number of hormones are working. From corpus luteum, these 3 hormones. And they do what? Now, they inhibit the follicular stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. So corpus luteum hormones do what? Inhibit LH and FSH. Now if FSH and LH, follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone, release is stopped, ovulation will not occur. Another follicle will not get mature. Make sense? Another rupture will not occur. Ovulation will not occur because FSH and LH, they help in growth, maturation, and rupture. You know that, right? So if those are inhibited, then ovulation will not occur. Make sense? Then how long the corpus luteum will be here? How long? 14 days. So after 14 days, corpus luteum is destroyed, right? No more estrogen progesterone is released here. Make sense? So this will again be released because no more estrogen progesterone is here. Make sense? So LH and FSH will be released again and will help to grow another follicle. Make sense? Help to rupture another follicle. Okay? Then same thing will happen again. Corpus luteum will be formed, will release estrogen progesterone inhibit. They will inhibit FSH, LH. Ovulation will be stopped, paused for a while, right? As long as those hormones are there. Is it clear? Okay. That's why, how long this time? 14 days, right? And here, another 14 days. So, after 28 days, another ovulation occurs. Makes sense? 14 days take to grow the follicle, right? And rupture, and another 14 days, corpus luteum is there. So, no more ovulation. 28 days. Now, if this is happening from puberty to menopause in female body, female reproductive system, if fertilization does not occur. Make sense? Now, if fertilization takes place, should ovulation, ovarian cycle continue? No, because we don't need another ovum to be released, right? That will be a problem. Because one ovum got fertilized, right? It should become the fetus, embryo fetus, right? During that time, no more ovulation. So, corpus luteum will decide to stay longer. If fertilization takes place, no ovulation is needed, right? So, corpus luteum should stay what? Longer? To inhibit FSH, LH. Make sense? So, corpus luteum stays for about 3 months. Instead of 14 days, it stays how long? 3 months. So, those 3 months after fertilization, no ovulation will occur. Make sense? Because corpus luteum is there. It will continue to release estrogen, progesterone inhibitor. Now, what happens after 3 months? Because pregnancy is longer, right? 10 months. So, during that 3 months, when corpus luteum is there, first 3 months of pregnancy, another structure will be formed that is called the placenta. Have you heard that? Placenta? So, placenta will be formed during that time, okay? And placenta will perform the same function of corpus luteum. That means what? It will produce those hormones. So, make sense? Now, corpus luteum will be destroyed after 3 months because placenta has taken over the endocrine function of the corpus luteum. Make sense? And rest part of the pregnancy, placenta will continue to produce those hormones, continue inhibiting LH and FSH. Make sense? So no more ovulation will occur during entire pregnancy. Is it clear? Okay. Now, you know that birth control pill that girls take, that is actually hormone, estrogen, progesterone. mixture. Okay? So as long as you can keep the estrogen progesterone concentration high in the blood, ovulation will not occur. Make sense? We know that from this, right? So estrogen progesterone inhibits the anterior pituitary, inhibits the release of FSH, LH. Make sense?
What dose did you say?
Is it? Yeah, it is interesting, right? So we know that these hormones will inhibit ovulation, right? So if you take from outside, that will do the same. Okay. Now, so that's the ovarian cycle. Okay, very important. Okay, now let's go back here. This is what? Ovary. And you now already know that from primordial, primary, secondary, late secondary, then Graafian is the most mature, right? So the egg inside, egg comes out by ovulation. Okay? So this egg will be taken inside the uterine tube. Will be taken inside the uterine tube. So this is the egg or ovum. The fimbriae, the finger-like structures, are always moving like this, okay? And when the egg is released from the ovary, they will capture. They will try to capture the egg and take it inside. Make sense? Sometimes if you have a small child or little brother walking with you, and you do like this, right? Okay? So fimbriae are doing like that, okay? And when the egg comes out, it will capture the egg. Most of the time, it successfully does it. Okay. And the egg will slowly move towards the house uterus. Okay? If sperm enters into the female body, egg is only one, right? Very precious. But sperm like million. So many sperm enter into the female body and travel long way to find the egg, okay? Sperm travel long way to find the egg, and when the ovum or egg arrives here, I told you to remember this part. What is the name of this part? Ampulla, very important, okay? So when the egg arrives here, this is the egg, sperm arrives here, and they meet in the ampulla of the uterine tube. So most of the time, sperm fertilizes the ovum at the ampulla. Is it clear? Of the uterine tube. So that is the fertilization. Fertilization. Make sense? So happens most of the time where? At the ampulla of the uterine tube.
Can it happen anywhere else, or does it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it can happen anywhere else. Most of the time,
In there.
happens there. Okay. Now, after fertilization, the fertilized egg is, or ovum, fertilized ovum is called the zygote. Zygote is the fertilized ovum. This is the egg or ovum. This is the wall of the ovum. And many sperm get attached to the wall at the same time from all over. Many sperm. Because sperm is many, right? Sperm is many. So they will stick to the surface of the egg. Make sense? And will start to break the wall to penetrate, go inside, reach here. Make sense? They will break the wall, dig. Okay? They're very,
Persistent.
yeah. It's like race. Like, you have one very, good prize and many people are running. Okay? So only one prize. So many sperm are running inwards. And remember, inside the head of the sperm, you have the chromosomes. Number is half, n. 2n is normal, but the sperm has n, and ovum also has n. That means half number of chromosomes. And here, and here. All your body cells have 2n, 46. But only in the sperm and ovum have 23, half, haploid, n, okay? Because, this is very important, because 1/2 of chromosome should come from each parent, right? Fertilized egg will get half of the chromosome from each parent. Make sense? From the sperm half, ovum half. That makes sense, right? So, this zygote has 2n. Anyway, so, now this is very interesting. All of them will start to get in, go in. And when the first one will arrive here, the others will stop moving. Others will lose interest. Okay? Like if 100 people have started to run, okay? And only one prize. Now if you see someone is way ahead of you, right? And the person way ahead has already arrived there, reached there, to the other end. What you will do? Stop. There's no point of running, right? I'm not going to get the prize. So, all other sperm will stop and will die. Okay? Will die and will be disintegrated, dissolved in the body. So, now you have one sperm that brings half n number of chromosome and ovum has n. So this is the fertilized egg, has 2n chromosome. Okay, that's the fertilized egg, the zygote. Okay. Then it will continue to move towards the house. First, what will happen? It will divide by mitosis into 2. One will divide into what? 2 by mitosis. Now remind me, mitosis keeps the chromosome number same or reduces? Same. Very good. Meiosis reduces to half, right? So all these cell divisions from this point will be done by mitosis to keep the chromosome number same in all body cells. Make sense? 2n will not reduce. So 2 cells, then 2 cells will become 4 cells. 4 cells will become 8 cells, and these stages from 2 to 8 cells stages are called blastomere. 2 to what? 8. During that time is called what? Blastomere. Okay? And those cell divisions are called cleavages. Okay. Then the cell division will continue, mitosis will continue, and 16 to 24 cells stays. It is like a solid ball of cells, and this is called morula. Morula. Okay, so morula is the stage of 16 to 24 cells. Okay, small solid ball of cells. And then what happens? Inside the morula, a cavity will appear. This is the cavity. These are the cells. When a cavity appears, this stage is called blastocyst. Blastocyst. And the blastocyst will arrive inside the house, uterus. So this is the blastocyst.